And joining us now is Mr. D.P. Nagendra. Kumar is a senior advisor, Deloitte Indian, former member CBIC. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on ET Now. We're talking about GST at 9. What are some of the reforms that the government should immediately be looking at with priority, given the kind of facts and given the kind of findings that this survey has presented and thrown up?
Yeah, thank you for having me in this interview. The GST at 9 survey clearly gives a thumbs up to the government insofar as the sentiments are concerned. The survey has also brought up certain critical recommendations for the government to look at. One of the key recommendations coming through is in terms of the compliance management. When we talk about compliance management, I think government has done considerable reforms in terms of simplifying the registration and also the return filing process. While there has been considerable progress insofar as issuance of registration is concerned, the subsequent processes like seeking amendments or for that matter where a registration gets suspended or cancelled and the taxpayer seeks relief in terms of restoration of that, the pain point still continues. I think there is scope for improvement there.
Right.
Insofar as the refunds are concerned, the survey clearly has pointed out that 36% of the respondents have said there has been delay in refunds, and also there are also attendant challenges in terms of denial of refund, particularly in respect of export sector. So there is scope for improvement in terms of fast-tracking the refund process. And insofar as the audit is concerned, I think audit is actually a planned activity in the government. So a lot more collaborative effort is called for. The current aggressive audit techniques adopted by the revenue administration could often lead to issuance of notice and protracted litigation. There is still room for scope for looking at the taxpayer submission before concluding an audit point. These are the things I would consider that on the compliance the government could do. And I'm not saying that the government has not done, but there is
more needs to be done. We have covered a lot of ground and a lot more needs to be covered for the process to become completely frictionless. But sir, for the process to become completely frictionless, we need to look at one other aspect, and that perhaps is also related to automation. How much has the government been able to sort of, digitize a lot of these processes to make the process simple for consumers, and how much more needs to be done in that regard?
I think on the adoption of tax technology, I think the government has done considerably well. What the taxpayers have experienced in the last 9 years of implementation of GST, I think if one has to say if this technology not to be there, whether GST would have progressed so well, the answer is emphatic no. While that being said, I think what the taxpayer expectations is that now that the tax technology adoption has been more or less in the stable space, the more user-friendly features in terms of the integrated dashboards and a longer period of data storage and retrieval, and also I think providing some sort of an auto-population of the data already gathered into the return pre-filing process. All these things will make the compliance activities much easier.
And what are industry's expectations, especially when it comes to dispute resolution, which also has come up as one of the challenges?
On dispute resolution, I think we need to be mindful of the fact that this new tax regime has evolved over a period of time where the key stakeholders like the GST Council has played a proactive role in issuing clarifications, appropriate timely amendments wherever certain provisions were misinterpreted, etc. But the dispute resolution process, in the best of the tax administration also, there are point of view of differences is possible. While the departmental adjudication and dispute resolution has not given in much of hope and trust for the fair resolution, I think the taxpayers' expectation is that consequent to establishment of the GST Appellate Tribunal, which has been made operational, I think it would function as the more efficient and fair and judicious forum for resolving disputes in an efficient manner. One of the things which probably the taxpayers have clearly brought out in the survey is that the taxpayers' point of view is not adequately taken into consideration before arriving at a conclusion, or for that matter, that quite often the decisions taken are in favor of revenue, notwithstanding that there are judicial precedents to hold to the contrary. I think a fair dispute resolution would not only look at from a point of view of a revenue gathering, but also look at our issues are substantial and merit really a mechanical confirmation.
Absolutely, sir. And looking forward, if you had to define GST 2.0, what would be the top 3 reforms that you think that the government needs to implement immediately?
I think on the structural side, the government has done quite well. I think what is required to be done in the GST 2.0 is make the implementation more efficient. And you mentioned about the frictionless things. I think that's where the taxpayers would expect certainty and also the ease of doing business.
Absolutely. On that note, thank you very much, sir, for joining us here and sharing your thoughts, perspectives on GST at 9. Of course, a lot needs to be addressed and discussed with the government. We do hope that the government is going to listen to some of the suggestions that you are making. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.